posted a comment about my proposal to introduce humane slavery under secular Koranism, and I said in the previous stream that it was a subject for another stream, but I think I can just about manage it before I go to bed, to explain my plan for humane slavery under secular Koranism, and it is to make the property in the slave belong to the state. Hello, Jay. And to make slavery humane by allowing the state, well, by giving the state the right to own the slave in question, and this management of slaves would be managed by the Department of Works, Pensions, the Department of Work, Pensions and Manumissions. And the idea is that the government would hire out slaves to hirers of slaves, and there would be an account for the slave, because the presumption is that every slave would have the right to manumission, meaning that there is envisaged at some time in the future, when the slave pays off his debt to society, the prospect of freedom. And the slave will have an account that the Department of Work, Pensions and Manumissions would keep an account of. And obviously the work that the slave does for whoever hires him will be recorded and set against his account, of whatever amount he needs to manumit himself, depending on how much he needs to pay off, whatever damage he's done. I mean, criminals can be enslaved, white collar embezzlers, whatever the damage you do that you cannot repay, you have to, work for. And so this is how it would work. And, when you finally, paid your debt and you get your freedom, but obviously you would need, extra money to, pay a deposit or something. So this would be how it would work in terms of getting your freedom back. And you would also have your rights protected as a slave, because you would have a slave visitor, a bit like a social visitor, to see if the slave is working properly, and whether the and to see that that government property, which is what the slave is, isn't being damaged. So there would be no question of abuse of the slave, because the slave visitor would be entitled to, ask questions about, whether the slave is working properly and whether the slave is being treated properly, and, just to see that things are, working okay between the slave and the hirer of the slave. So that would be a job creation scheme for slave visitors, who would be social visitors. So I think that should protect the rights of the slaves and ensure that the slave is humanely treated, and government property isn't being damaged, and hopefully that should be enough to anticipate any problems. I mean, the problem of slaves that aren't fit for work would be maybe I think there might be a problem with too many of these people just not being fit workers for anything, and I'll have to think of something to do to them. And I think putting them into a kind of human zoo would be instructive for people who don't want them to starve, but they'll have to be in a zoo, and they would suffer the humiliation of not having privacy, and people ask them impertinent questions about how they are, not fit for work and have to be accommodated in a human zoo, and and suffer themselves to be asked impertinent questions of how they came to be in that state of being a slave that no one wants to hire because they're too incompetent to do a proper day's work. So I've basically thought of everything, and if you don't think I have, please post comments to show, to ask me any questions that I should be able to address when I get round to it. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope it's been educational and instructive. Thank you very much.